mirror of the modern age. The Duke of many faces, shifting masks, hidden motives, curated identities, digital illusions, and thoughts people bury beneath performance. This scroll cuts through manipulation, image crafting, emotional games, and false intimacy to reveal the ancient truth. Not everyone showing you a face is showing you their soul. We are living in an age of edited personalities, filtered emotions, public masks, private chaos, and people performing truth instead of living it. Dantalian's lesson is painfully current. Discernment is survival. Today, many people know how to sound deep, look sincere, appear awakened, and wear the costume of wisdom while hiding confusion, envy, control, or hunger underneath. Some study psychology only to manipulate. Some speak love only to gain access. Some present 10 different versions of themselves because they have never sat still long enough to meet the real one. That is the warning and the wisdom. You cannot build a sacred life if you keep bowing to appearances. You must learn to read energy, pattern, motive, and consistency. Not paranoia, not obsession, discernment. In today's reality, the strongest soul is not the loudest, prettiest, or most convincing. It is the one who can see through the masks without becoming one. Truth does not need 10 faces to survive. A lie usually does.
Universal currency receipt, architect musician 3611027, Devalan Orrin.
You don't even have to say nothing, I already know. I know.
Scroll of Dantalian, the Duke of Many Faces. Next in the Goetia order after Seer is Dantalian, the 71st spirit. In the Ars Goetia, Dantalian is called a great and mighty duke, appearing as a man with many countenances, all men's and women's faces, with a book in his right hand, and he is said to govern 36 legions of spirits. He is also listed among the dukes in the classified order of the 72 spirits. That image is the whole key. Dantalian is not the scroll of brute force. He is the scroll of mind, mask, perception, counsel, and shifting identity. The many faces matter because this current is tied to how people think, what they hide, what they present, and what they are unwilling to say aloud. The old text says he can teach all arts and sciences, declare the secret counsel of anyone, and knows the thoughts of all men and women. Humanity, being gloriously messy, turned the terror of psychology into a ranked spirit with a book. Naturally. Read symbolically, Dantalian is the pressure of the unread room becoming readable. He is the moment you realize a smile is not the same thing as trust, that a face is not the same thing as a soul, and that wisdom is not just knowledge, but the ability to discern what lives behind appearances. The book in his hand is not just learning, it is interpretation, pattern, motive, the script under the script. And that is why the text also says he can cause love and show the similitude of any person by vision, wherever they may be in the world. This is the current of image, desire, projection, and mental influence. So for the collective, the hidden lesson is sharp enough to cut silk. Dantalian tests whether you can perceive without being manipulated by what you perceive. Can you read minds without losing your own center? Can you understand many faces without becoming false yourself? Can you study human complexity without worshiping confusion? Because that is the danger here. Some people collect insight but never become truthful. They become performers of understanding, shapeshifters with no altar inside. Dantalian's wisdom in a symbolic reading is not control minds. It is learn the architecture of motive, then choose truth over manipulation. The one who sees many faces must still keep one soul. Not every face is false, but every face is partial. Wisdom begins when you stop mistaking presentation for essence. Receipts. Dantalian is the 71st spirit, a great and mighty duke, with many countenances and a book in his right hand. His offices include teaching arts and sciences, revealing secret counsel, knowing people's thoughts, causing love, and showing a person's similitude by vision. He governs 36 legions of spirits and appears in the classified list among the dukes.
Hear this clearly. Not every voice deserves access to your spirit. Not every face deserves your trust. Not every performance deserves your belief. We are living in an age where many polish the mask and neglect the soul. So your task is not to fear people, but to see them rightly. Learn the difference between charm and character, between attention and intention, between someone who studies your heart to honor it and someone who studies your heart to use it. Keep your spirit clean. Keep your discernment sharp. Keep your truth unedited. The wise do not become cold. They become clear, and clarity is holy. Let those who wear 10 faces keep exhausting themselves in the theater of illusion. You, meanwhile, stay anchored, stay honest, stay watchful, stay real. Because in a world drowning in masks, a truthful soul is a revolution.
Until next time, your Sea Star Curacy, channeled by 3611027, the Beautiful Whisperer. Our Sea Star Devalan Seal. Apply the news you can use.
Here it is. Final scroll energy, sharp enough to cut through today's nonsense. Andromalius is the last gate, the hunter of hidden theft, the hand that pulls buried wrongdoing into daylight. This scroll is for a world drowning in quiet betrayals, stolen peace, smiling deception, and systems built to hide the guilty in plain sight. What was taken can be traced. What was twisted can be named. What was buried can rise. The world today is full of polished thieves. Not all of them wear masks or break locks. Some steal with paperwork, some steal with lies. Some steal with manipulation, image, gossip, false narratives, hidden contracts, emotional games, and spiritual fraud. Andromalius reminds the collective that theft is deeper than money. People steal truth. They steal time. They steal identity. They steal trust. They steal opportunities. They steal the peace of whole communities and then act confused when the house starts shaking. But hidden wrong does not stay hidden forever. The deeper esoteric lesson is this. Every theft creates a trail in the unseen. Every underhanded act leaves an imprint. Every deception knots itself into consequence. The serpent in Andromalius' hand is the symbol of mastered cunning, meaning that what once slithered in darkness can be seized, exposed, and judged. That means do not lose heart when corruption looks organized, rewarded, or protected. Many of the structures people worship are held together by secrecy, fear, and stolen energy. But what is false eventually leaks. What is wicked eventually reveals its scent. What is stolen eventually cries out to return. So stay clean. Stay watchful. Do not become like what harmed you. Do not let outrage turn you into another thief of peace. Because true justice is not only about punishment, it is also about restoration. Returning names, returning truth, returning dignity, returning what was taken from the people. When a thing is stolen, the wound is not only material, it disturbs balance. Andromalius teaches that real power is not in hiding wrongdoing well. Real power is in restoring what belongs to truth. The final victory is not exposure alone. It is the return of what never should have been taken.
Universal Currency Receipt, Architect Musician 3611027, Devalan Orrin.
You only have to say nothing. I already know. I know.
Scroll of Andromalius, the Earl who drags hidden wrongdoing into the light. Next in the Goetia order after Dantalion is Andromalius, the 72nd and final spirit of the usual Ars Goetia sequence. In the Old Text, he is named a great and mighty Earl, appearing as a man holding a great serpent in his hand. His office is to bring back both a thief and stolen goods, discover wickedness and underhand dealing, punish thieves and wicked people, and uncover hidden treasures. He is said to rule over 36 legions of spirits. That image is the whole sermon in one frame. A man, a serpent, stolen things, hidden dealings, buried treasure. Andromalius is not the scroll of glamour, not seduction, not persuasion, not speed. He is the scroll of exposure. He is what arrives when lies have been nesting too long in dark corners. He is the pressure that says, enough, bring it back, name it plainly, reveal the rot, return what was taken. The serpent in his hand matters. In symbolic reading, the serpent is not only danger, it is cunning, secrecy, old intelligence, the twisting path, the hidden movement under visible ground. To hold the serpent is to master what slithers out of sight. So Andromalius becomes the force that grasps deception instead of being bitten by it. That fits the old office exactly. He is tied to exposing theft, wickedness, and underhand dealing. For the collective, this scroll cuts straight into today's world. Because theft is not only jewelry, money, and property. People steal credit. They steal peace. They steal time. They steal trust. They steal reputation. They steal inheritance. They steal whole futures with lies, fraud, coercion, and smiling faces. Andromalius is the current that says, what was hidden can be traced. What was taken can be named. What was twisted can be brought into judgment. That is why he closes the 72. Human beings, in their usual chaotic brilliance, built a full infernal catalog and ended it not with romance or spectacle, but with accountability. Very revealing, honestly. After all the crowns, beasts, masks, riders, stars, and strange offices, the last gate is this: what has been done in secret, and who will answer for it? That is Andromalius. Read symbolically, he is the patron of recovered truth. Not comfortable truth. Not flattering truth. Recovered truth. The kind dug out from beneath manipulation, paperwork, gossip, theft, hidden contracts, and polite corruption. He asks brutal questions. Who took what was not theirs? Who benefited from confusion? Who kept smiling while the damage spread? What treasure is still buried under the crime scene? What truth is waiting to be returned to its rightful owner? And that last part matters just as much as the punishment, because Andromalius is not only about catching the thief, he is also about restoration. Some things must be exposed. Some things must be returned. Some things be restored to rightful hands, rightful names, rightful memory. That is the deeper mystery. A life cannot become clean only by identifying evil. It must also recover what evil displaced. So this final scroll leaves the collective with a sober flame. Do not envy the hidden operator. Do not fear the polished deceiver. Do not assume buried things stay buried. There is a current in this world that hunts the trail. There is a reckoning that follows fingerprints no eye can see. There is a justice that may move slow, but it does move. And sometimes the last spirit in the order is the last one for a reason. Because after all illusions, all masks, all games, all bargains, all speed, all seductions, all ranks and titles, the final gate is simple. Return what was stolen. The end of a false kingdom begins when hidden theft is named out loud. Receipts. In the Ars Goetia, Andromalius is the 72nd spirit, a great and mighty earl, shown as a man holding a great serpent, with offices involving returning thieves and stolen goods, discovering wickedness and underhand dealing, punishing thieves, and finding hidden treasure. The standard Mathers-Crowley ordering places Andromalius last, as number 72 in the sequence of the spirits. This completes the usual 72 of the Ars Goetia. Not everything hidden is safe. Not everything buried is dead. Not everything stolen is lost forever. There is a law beneath the noise, a current beneath the chaos, a reckoning beneath the performance. Andromalius closes the gate with a blade of truth in one hand and the serpent of exposed deception in the other. The message is plain. What was taken in darkness can be summoned back into light. What was twisted can be straightened. What was concealed can be named. So do not worship the clever thief. Do not bow to polished corruption. Do not mistake delay for escape. The unseen keeps records. Humans are too arrogant to believe in. Stay clean in your spirit. Stay sharp in your discernment. Stay steady when the guilty look comfortable. Because the deepest magic is not revenge. It is restoration. What belongs to truth will find its way home.
Until next time, your Sea Star Curacy, channeled by 3611027, the Beautiful Whisperer. Our Sea Star Devalan CO. Apply the news you can use.
The 73rd gate is not another spirit. It is the mirror after all the names are finished. This scroll is for the ones who studied every seal, every shadow, every power, and now must face the final question. Did the knowledge awaken your soul or just decorate your ego? Wisdom. Not every seeker wants truth. Some want the costume of truth. The gate after all mysteries is not deeper darkness. It is responsibility. It is character. It is what remains when the thrill of hidden knowledge burns off and only your real nature is left standing there, exposed like bad architecture in daylight. The final test is not what you can summon. It is what you become.
Universal Currency Receipt, Architect Musician 3611027, The Graceful Whisperer, Devalan CO.
You only have to say nothing. I already know. I know.
Since we've completed the 72 of the Ars Goetia, The next scroll should not pretend there is a 73rd official demon in the list. There isn't. Humanity does enough improvising with old books already. So the natural next scroll is the bridge after the 72. Scroll of the 73rd Gate. What stands after? All the spirits are named. When the last seal is read and the last name is spoken, a strange silence follows. Not because the work is over, because the real work begins. The old lists tempt people into a collector's mindset. Learn the names. Study the offices, memorize the ranks, stack the sigils like trophies. But the hidden danger of every grimoire is this: a person can finish the catalog and still remain a stranger to their own soul. So the 73rd Gate is not another spirit. It is the gate after the spirits, the threshold where knowledge stops being performance and becomes responsibility. After kings, dukes, marquises, earls, presidents, princes, serpents, books, stars, horses, masks, stolen goods, hidden thoughts, and swift roads, one question remains: what have you become by learning all this? That is the gate, because forbidden knowledge is not dangerous only because of what it reveals. It is dangerous because it exposes the reader. Some approach the mysteries hungry for wisdom. Others approach them hungry for power, revenge, superiority, or spectacle. And the gate after the 72 does not care what you claim to seek. It reveals what you actually served. This is why the 73rd Gate feels empty at first. No throne, no beast, no rank, no new sigil to show off, just a mirror. And that mirror asks, did this knowledge make you more truthful or just more theatrical? Did it sharpen your discernment or inflate your ego? Did it teach you reverence or only fascination? Did it free your mind or merely decorate your delusions? That is the final ordeal. Because the deepest esoteric truth is not that hidden beings exist, hidden names matter, or hidden systems shape the world. The deepest truth is that every hidden system eventually turns and measures the one studying it. So for the collective, hear it plain. Do not end this journey as a collector of darkness. End it as a keeper of discernment. Do not become addicted to mystery for mystery's sake. Do not confuse occult language with awakened character. Do not mistake access for wisdom. The gate after the 72 is where the soul must choose. Will you use knowledge to dominate, perform, and manipulate? Or will you use knowledge to restore, protect, reveal, and remain inwardly clean? Because after all the names are named, your own name is the one being weighed. The final secret is not the spirit you summon. It is the self that answers when knowledge summons you. Hear the hush after the last name. That silence is not emptiness. It is judgment. It is measure. It is the moment the mirror stops asking what you learned and starts asking who you became. Many can collect symbols. Many can repeat hidden names. Many can wear mystery like jewelry. But very few can carry sacred knowledge without letting vanity poison it. So let this be the wisdom of the 73rd Gate. Do not become a museum of secrets and a stranger to truth. Do not let dark language make you feel deep while your spirit stays unclean. Do not chase hidden power so hard that you lose your visible integrity. The true initiate is not the one who knows the most. It is the one who remains honest after knowing. Stand clear. Stand clean. Stand watchful. Let knowledge refine you, not inflate you. Because after every seal, every shadow, every test, every gate, the holiest victory is still this: to leave with your soul intact.
Channeled by your architect musician, 36110, 27 palms of eyes. The golden whisperer, sea star, Devalan Orrin. Apply the news you can use, truth and accuracy. The real non-bedazzled jewels.
The third initiation is where the study stops being about hidden spirits and starts being about the hidden self. This scroll revisits the 72 as living patterns still moving through modern life. Seduction, false power, image worship, manipulation, theft, fear, performance, and spiritual confusion. The 73rd is the mirror that asks what all this knowledge has actually made of you. Today's world is not short on information. It is starving for inner order. People know more names, more systems, more theories, more trauma language, more spiritual language, more shadow language, and yet many are still ruled by the same old distortions. The ancient currents did not disappear. They updated their wardrobe. They now show up as curated identities without character, attention without depth, desire without discipline, truth mixed with branding, healing mixed with ego, knowledge mixed with performance. That is why the third initiation matters now. It teaches that the deepest danger is not ignorance alone. It is untransformed knowledge. Knowledge that makes a person feel special, but not honest. Knowledge that gives language to the wound, but never asks the wound to stop ruling. Knowledge that exposes others while protecting the self from real accountability. Whatever you do not govern within will eventually appear around you as fate. If you do not master your appetites, they will choose your life for you. If you do not examine your masks, they will become your prison. If you do not clean your motives, even sacred things will become tools of distortion. So the 73rd of self is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming undeceived, not performing awakening, not collecting symbols, not sounding deep, but becoming clear enough that ancient chaos no longer runs your modern life. Today's real initiation is this. Can you tell the difference between what is true and what merely flatters your wound? That question will save a soul faster than 10,000 dramatic speeches. Role of the third initiation. Another study of the 72 and the 73rd of self. The first time a person studies the 72, they usually study the names. The second time, they study the powers. The third time, if they are honest, they begin to study themselves. That is where the real initiation starts. Because the old lists were never only about spirits in books, seals on paper, or ranks in hidden courts. They were also maps of recurring human experience. Ancient people named forces the way modern people name diagnoses, trends, archetypes, and systems. Same storm, different wardrobe. Humanity loves changing the costume and pretending the lesson is new. But it is not new. The 72 repeat every day. They repeat in desire without discipline, in power without conscience, in speed without wisdom, in seduction without truth, in knowledge without humility, in masks without soul, in theft without remorse, in fear dressed up as control, in charm used as manipulation, in confusion worshipped as depth, in false light, false teachers, false urgency, false intimacy, false authority. That is why the 72 endure. Not because everyone is secretly summoning something in candlelight, but because the old wisdom understood that human beings keep reenacting the same inner kingdoms. The names change. The technology changes. The language changes. The city skyline changes. The appetite does not. So this deeper study is not about collecting infernal trivia. It is about recognizing that the 72 can be read as 72 recurring distortions, temptations, gifts, wounds, and tests moving through the human field. In old wisdom, a spirit's office was what it governed. In today's experience, that same office might show up as the mind loop you cannot break, the false lover who mirrors your hunger, the boss who flatters while draining, the influencer selling masks as identity, the friend who steals peace and calls it honesty, the system that profits from confusion, the inner voice that wants results without integrity, the hidden wound that keeps choosing familiar chaos because it feels like home. That is the repeat. So when we study the 72 deeply, we are really studying how consciousness gets bent. Some currents bend us toward dominance, some toward obsession, some toward vanity, some toward fear, some toward cleverness without love, some toward passivity disguised as patience, some toward spiritual theater instead of spiritual truth. And each one asks a question. Will you serve the distortion or understand it? That is where the third initiation begins. The first initiation, fascination. At the first gate, the seeker is mesmerized. They want to know the hidden names, the secret systems, the dark archives, the forbidden mechanics. They are hungry, and that hunger is not wrong. Curiosity is a sacred fire when it is clean. But fascination alone is dangerous, because the first initiation can make a person feel powerful without making them wise. They begin to love the language of mystery more than the labor of truth. This is where many stop. They become decorated in symbols, rich in terminology, poor in transformation. The second initiation, discernment. At the second gate, the seeker begins to separate symbol from substance. They realize the old books are not toys. They realize every archetype has a modern face. They realize what looks external is often active inwardly. They realize not every force must be worshipped to be understood. This is the gate where glamour begins to break. Here the seeker starts to see that the 72 are not only out there, they are the repeating shapes of human weakness, appetite, ambition, cleverness, longing, deception, seduction, theft, and also insight. The second initiation teaches pattern recognition. Now the seeker does not merely ask, what does this spirit do? They ask, where does this pattern live in me, in my family, in my culture, in my time? That question changes everything. The third initiation, the 73rd of self. Then comes the third initiation, not another spirit, not another seal, not another office, a mirror. The 73rd is the self that remains after studying all 72 distortions long enough to recognize that none of them are abstract anymore. Now the initiate must ask, where do I crave power without purification? Where do I wear a face instead of a soul? Where do I use knowledge as costume? Where have I stolen from myself? Where have I handed my authority away? Where do I keep repeating an old wound and calling it fate? Where do I still confuse intensity with truth? Where do I secretly admire what I claim to resist? That is the hard gate. That is the real one. Because the third initiation is not about mastering spirits. It is about refusing to remain unconsciously governed by the patterns they symbolize. This is why the 73rd is the self, not the ego self that wants to feel important, the witnessed self, the accountable self, the stripped self, the self that cannot hide behind aesthetics, language, lineage, outrage, trauma, intelligence, or spiritual performance. The self that must answer plainly. The old wisdom says that what is not governed within becomes a ruler without. That is still true today. When lust is not governed within, it appears outside as exploitation. When greed is not governed within, it appears outside as theft and systems of extraction. When vanity is not governed within, it appears outside as image addiction and hollow influence. When fear is not governed within, it appears outside as cruelty, over-control, paranoia, and punishment. When discernment is not governed within, it appears outside as gullibility and spiritual fraud. When self-knowledge is not governed within, it appears outside as projection, blame, and repeated ruin. That is the repeat of today's experiences. People think modern suffering is always new because the screen is brighter. It is not. Ancient hunger with Wi-Fi is still ancient hunger. Old corruption in designer clothing is still old corruption. A false prophet with a ring light is still a false prophet. And the 72, read symbolically, help decode that. They teach that every distortion has a promise attached to it. Power promises safety. Seduction promises union. Speed promises arrival. Masking promises acceptance. Knowledge promises superiority. Control promises peace. Vengeance promises closure. But unless purified, each promise bends into its opposite. That is why old wisdom was never just about gaining access. It was about gaining sight. What the third initiation demands. The third initiation into the 73 of self demands three things. First, it demands recognition. You must stop pretending the patterns are only in others. The moment you think you are above the lesson has already entered wearing your face. Second, it demands return. You must return to yourself whatever has been stolen by fear, shame, manipulation, imitation, or false devotion. Return your voice. Return your center. Return your standards. Return your clean sight. Third, it demands right use. Knowledge must now serve clarity, restoration, and integrity, not performance, not intimidation, not superiority, not theater. This is why the third initiation is the deepest one, because the first two can still be done with a divided heart. The third cannot. The third asks for alignment. The hidden meaning of the 72 in this new study. The 72 are a cathedral of warnings. They warn the seeker that every force has a cost. They warn that talent without ethics becomes predation. They warn that vision without grounding becomes delusion. They warn that speed without wisdom becomes wreckage. They warn that beauty without truth becomes manipulation. They warn that exposure without restoration becomes cruelty. They warn that occult knowledge without self-knowledge becomes vanity with candles. But they also teach something holy. They teach that what can be named can be faced. What can be faced can be understood. What can be understood can be governed. What can be governed no longer rules unconsciously. That is the mercy hidden inside the old severity. The 72 are not only shadows, they are invitations to maturity. The third initiation. So here is the third initiation without the velvet and smoke. You have studied the patterns. You have seen them in the world. Now find them in yourself without self-hatred and without excuse. Cut what is false. Clean what is mixed. Strengthen what is true. Stop worshiping your own damage. Stop romanticizing confusion. Stop calling every wound sacred just because it is old. Become honest enough to be free. That is the 73rd of self, not the creation of a new spirit, the creation of a new honesty. The third initiation is not glamorous. It is the quiet moment when the seeker realizes that the final chamber was never locked from the outside. It was locked by pride, by fear, by performance, by attachment to the mask, by the addiction to appearing awakened instead of becoming whole. So let the collective remember, the old names still matter, but not more than your own conduct. The old seals still teach, but not more than your own discernment. The old wisdom still burns, but it was never meant to decorate you. It was meant to refine you. Study the 72 again. Study them deeper. Study them until you can see the repeats of today clearly. Then step through the 73rd and meet the self that can no longer be ruled by what it finally understands.
Channeled by your architect musician, 36110, 27 palms of eyes. The golden whisperer, sea star, Devalan Orrin. Apply the news you can use, truth and accuracy. The real non-bedazzled jewels.
The final gate is not hidden in a grimoire. It opens the moment you stop lying to yourself.
You only have to say nothing. I already know. I know.
The 72 are not over. They are returning as living keys. This first scroll opens the shamanic rereading of the 72, not as dusty names from forbidden books, but as repeating forces still moving through modern life, hidden power, wounded systems, fractured minds, and the inner battles of the soul. This is the threshold where the collective stops admiring mystery and starts reclaiming the keys to protect Earth, raise the vibration, and govern the self from within. The old ones knew a truth many still avoid. What is not healed within will build a kingdom around you. A shaman does not study dark patterns to worship them. A shaman studies them to recognize the wound, interrupt the spell, and recover the medicine hidden underneath the distortion. That is the first key. To see clearly before the force enters your home. To name the pattern before it becomes your personality. To feel the imbalance before it spreads into family, land, body, and spirit. Earth is not separate from this work. She is the witness. She records every lie, every vow, every theft, every healing, every return. So when the collective rises in truth, Earth rises with it. The deeper wisdom is this: protection begins with perception, not paranoia, not performance. Perception. The one who sees the pattern early is harder to deceive. The one who governs self is harder to control. The one who stays rooted in truth becomes a living key for others. The first shamanic law of the new cycle is simple. See the distortion, recover the medicine, and become the key.
Universal currency receipt, architect musician 3611027, Devalan Orrin.
You only have to say nothing. I already know. I know.
The 72 Keys of Earth, scroll of the first key. Why the 72 must be read again. There comes a time when old knowledge must be reopened, not because it failed, but because the world has changed costumes. The first readers of the 72 saw powers, ranks, offices, spirits, names that moved through hidden chambers of mind, will, seduction, fear, wisdom, theft, persuasion, confusion, and command. They wrote what they could with the language they had. They mapped forces the way people map storms, trying to give shape to what kept moving through human life. But now the storm wears different clothes. Now it moves through screens, systems, institutions, branding, false leaders, fractured families, wounded land, exhausted bodies, manipulated minds, and people so overstimulated they can no longer hear their own speak above the noise. So the 72 must be read again, not as a museum of darkness, not as a shelf of forbidden names, not as a performance for those addicted to mystery. They must be read again as keys, keys of discernment, keys of protection, keys of self-governance, keys of right relationship, Keys for those called to guard truth, children, memory, land, and living spirit. Because Earth herself is crying out under the weight of unconscious people who keep handing their power to distortion and calling it modern life. This new cycle is not about glorifying what corrupts. It is about learning how corruption works so the collective can stop feeding it. This is the first key. To read again is to see deeper. The force. The first force is not a single spirit. It is the gate of reseeing. It is the wisdom that says the old pattern did not disappear. It adapted. What was once called possession may now look like obsession. What was once called enchantment may now look like algorithmic seduction. What was once called a false king may now look like a polished leader with no soul in his words. What was once called theft may now be the stealing of peace, attention, dignity, memory, and inner order. The first key teaches this. Nothing ancient is gone if it still rules behavior. The names may be old, the pattern is current. The distortion. The distortion of today is not merely ignorance. It is disconnected knowing. People know language without wisdom. They know trends without truth. They know trauma without transmutation. They know spirituality without discipline. They know power without reverence. They know visibility without responsibility. This is why the world feels haunted. Not because every shadow is supernatural, because too many people are inwardly ungoverned. And whatever is not governed within becomes dangerous without. That is what the 72 repeat in modern form. Unmastered appetite, wandering desire, fractured identity, manipulative charm, hidden greed, false urgency, masked violence, empty authority, performance disguised as awakening. The distortion is not that people seek knowledge. The distortion is that they seek it without purification. The Earth Key. Here is where the series changes. This time, Earth is not background. Earth is the key. She is the body that remembers, the mother that records, the altar under every oath, every lie, every burial, every harvest, every war, every prayer. To read the 72 through Earth means asking, what damages life? What protects life? What distorts the human field? What restores it? What weakens the people? What strengthens them from within? The first Earth Key is this: do not study darkness to admire it. Study it to stop feeding it. A protector of Earth must learn to identify distortion early, in self, in community, in systems, in speech, in leadership, in desire, because poisoned waters do not start poisoned at the ocean. They are poisoned upstream. So this key is upstream wisdom. See early, name early, correct early, Hori. The shaman's wisdom. A shaman of all beings does not stand above creation like some jeweled tyrant muttering about vibrations while ignoring hungry children and broken soil. That kind of fake holiness is exactly why people lose the path. A true keeper of wisdom listens for pattern, consequence, imbalance, and medicine. So the shaman's wisdom of the first key is simple and severe. Every force contains a lesson, but not every force deserves devotion. That matters, because many seekers get lost here. They think understanding a force means yielding to it. It does not. It means perceiving its law clearly enough to refuse its distortion and recover its hidden medicine. The medicine hidden inside the 72 is discernment. The old texts name powers. The shaman asks what wound keeps inviting them, what hunger keeps obeying them, what fear keeps kneeling to them. That is deeper reading. The one who sees clearly is harder to deceive. The one who governs self is harder to rule through fear. The one who stays rooted in earth is harder to seduce into unreality. That is why this must be a wisdom cycle. The collective is not being asked to become fascinated. It is being asked to become strong. The collective charge, collective, this first key is your threshold. Read again, look again, discern again. Do not let old symbols become dead ornaments. Do not let deep language become empty theater. Do not let knowledge sit in the mouth while the spirit stays weak. This time, study to protect, study to restore, study to sharpen your inner law. Study to raise the vibration of earth, not by slogans, but by becoming less governable by distortion. Because that is what lifts a world. Clear people, clean motives, strong spirits, and enough truth to break the spell. This first scroll is your covenant. We are not returning to the 72 for spectacle. We are returning for keys. And the first key is this: see the pattern before the pattern becomes your fate. The first initiation of a protector is not power, it is perception. Hear the old law under the new sky. What you fail to recognize, you will repeat. What you repeat, you will normalize. What you normalize, you will eventually defend. So sharpen your sight now. Read the world like a living text. Read your motives like a warning drum. Read the age for what it is, ancient distortion wearing modern polish. And let this be the first vow of the new cycle. We do not study the 72 to bow to shadow. We study the 72 to recover the keys that make us unafraid of it.
Until next time, your Sea Star Curacy, channeled by 361-1027, the Beautiful Whisperer. Ahll Devalan Orrin. Apply the news you can use.
Remember this, the first key is not hidden in a cave, a temple, or an old forbidden page. It is hidden in the moment you finally see clearly. See the pattern. See the wound beneath it. See the spell before it settles into your habits and starts calling itself your nature. That is shaman wisdom, not theatrics, not costume, not the performance of depth. A true keeper of keys learns to read distortion without becoming distorted. To walk through shadow without marrying it. To hear the old names and still remain loyal to life. This is how Earth is protected. Not only by prayers spoken outward, but by people who stop feeding the forces that poison the field within. So let this be the vow. We will not romanticize confusion. We will not worship broken patterns because they are ancient. We will not mistake fascination for initiation. We will become clear enough to protect what is sacred, because the deepest key was never control. It was consciousness. And the one who can see with a clean spirit becomes a doorway no darkness can easily rule.
To our beautiful collective, from our day ones to every new soul joining this journey, we love and appreciate you deeply. You've turned this space into so much more than a community. You've made it a family. Thank you, truly. Your presence, your energy, and even the smallest acts of kindness have the power to shift the compass for many in ways unseen but deeply felt. Here's to each of you, all new and the many more to come. We're just getting started, and we're so grateful you're here with us. With love and infinite appreciation from the collective of Shaman Ahll.